Hello, my name is Randy Ham, and I'm the Executive Director for Odessa Arts. Thank you for joining me tonight for this special presentation on Basin PBS. We will be discussing the tragic events of August 31st, 2019, and how the city is using art to help our community heal. Labor Day weekend was supposed to be the last hurrah of summer, a time when community members gather with their family and friends for backyard barbecues, swimming, and companionship. There is an air of relaxation and gratitude for the time we have spent together. For Odessa, Texas, however, our weekend was turned upside down by the chaos of gun violence. In the span of less than 2 hours, 7 people were killed and 25 were wounded. It was due to the combined efforts of law enforcement that the suspect was prevented from doing further damage. It would be easy to think of these as statistics in the ever-growing plague of gun violence. But in doing so, we would cease to remember them as neighbors, brothers, and sisters. It's important that we remember their names. In the aftermath, Mayor David Turner spoke to me about the need for a memorial, a focal point for the community to remember, grieve, heal, and honor the first responders as well as the victims. Mayor Turner, I want to thank you for joining us today, and I want to ask you a few questions. Can you take me back to the time directly after August 31st? What gave you the idea that the city might need a memorial?
Basically, you look, everybody thinks about 9/11, and I know a lot of people have received healing from having a place to go and look at a piece of art, a place to remember what happened, and a place to honor those that we lost and celebrate the ones that have recovered, that were injured. And I wanted to make sure Odessa had a place to heal. And I knew if I called you that it would get done. And so I called you and we started talking about it. And that's when we really started to work on it.
What was it like once we put that selection committee together and you started going through and looking at all of the different, there were 138 artists to go through. Tell me what that was like from the point of view of a selection committee member.
It's a little overwhelming. You never know how many you're going to receive. And we had 138 to go through. And the gravity of the situation, you want to do your very best. And you want to find something that stirs emotion in yourself. And that's why it's wonderful to have a committee. I was glad to not have that totally on my shoulders. And I think the committee did an amazing job of choosing the one we chose.
What do you think of the final design?
It needs to be reverent for those that we lost. Mm-hmm. It also needs to celebrate those that have healed. And it's a great place, I believe, to be able to give the citizens a place to go, to reflect. One of my many duties as mayor is I get to go be part of the 9/11 memorial when they put flags out in Memorial Gardens. And I wanted something like that to remember this, to help our citizens heal.
Well, what do you hope that the citizens of Odessa will take away from this once they visit it for the first time?
I think there'll be a lot of tears. I know I get choked up thinking about it, but I hope it's a place to reflect, a place to heal, and a place to never forget that our freedoms are very special, but sometimes life happens, and just enjoy the day that you're given.
Well, I thank you very much for your leadership on this project and for coming up with this idea. I think that the city is going to treasure this memorial for years and years to come.
Thank you very much for all your help.
A call for artists was sent out to artists across the United States. 138 applied for the commission. The selection committee pored over each resume and narrowed it down to the 3 finalists. Each finalist was given 10 weeks to create a proposal for presentation. This is where COVID reared its ugly head. Proposals are normally presented in person, so that committee members can ask questions and get a feel for each artist. Instead, proposals were transmitted electronically to the committee. For a week, committee members looked over each proposal and sent emails back and forth. From the very beginning, there was a front runner, and by the middle of August, we had selected Jim Sanborn and his Bright Star, a Memorial, as the winning design.
Jim's most well-known project, Kryptos, was commissioned by the General Services Administration for the Central Intelligence Agency and is installed in their Langley, Virginia headquarters. Jim collaborated with a cryptographer to produce 4 encoded sections of text, which were water-jet cut into a serpentine copper screen. The Kryptos ensemble consists of multiple elements: 2 large granite outcrops at the entrance of the headquarters and a pond in the interior courtyard. The screen we see here is 10 feet high and 26 feet long. Of the 4 sections of encoded text on this screen, the last section, known as K4 in the Kryptos community, has become one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. We frequently use international, classical, and Native American texts to convey meaning and to act as a metaphor for enlightenment. This multilingual approach allows viewers of different cultures to collaborate on understanding the important history of a site. Ripawam, produced for the University of Connecticut, recounts the transfer of Mashpee Native American lands to New England colonists. The text quotes a 17th century contract that allowed colonists to trade small, insignificant items for large tribal regions that eventually became the state of Connecticut. Commissioned by the Florida Power and Light Company, Jim used 2 projection cylinders powered by a pinpoint light. These cylinders have become a signature of our public projects, broadcasting historic content over a wide area of the site and the viewers.
Thomas Edison spent a tremendous amount of time in Fort Myers, Florida. So the screen in the foreground describes and lists actually all of the plant materials that Edison searched for and found in the state of Florida to make light filaments. The piece in the background is actually a Creek language screen that describes the Creek migration legend. The reason I've used this Native American text is because on this site, before the post office and before Fort Myers, there was a Native American village here, and there were many Native artifacts found on this site, predating this site by a couple of thousand years.
Ars Medendi, created for the Thomas Jefferson University Medical College in Philadelphia, is perforated with over 20 different texts in many languages and describes a variety of medical procedures. The sources and inspirations of these texts range from classical Greek and Roman manuscripts to popular novels and contemporary organ transplants. This piece stands before the University of Iowa's Schools of Broadcasting and Journalism. The text lists, in chronological order, the headlines of the day, from as far back as Rome 79 BC to contemporary front-page news taken from the time Yakta was produced in 2005. A stands in front of the M.D. Anderson Library at the University of Houston. Seen from above, this work takes the form of a comma on a line of text. The piece is an amalgam of phrases sourced from world literature that describe interpersonal relationships in Arabic, Chinese, Spanish, and many other languages. Meridian, located in front of Union Station in Denver, Colorado, is a 12-foot-tall bronze projection cylinder. It sits directly on a prime meridian which runs through the city of Denver. All of the texts are specific to Colorado and include factual accounts from the state's history, like the gold mining songs of the 49ers and records from early Spanish explorers. Argentum Double Positive is installed in front of the Memorial Art Gallery at the University of Rochester, New York. The work consists of 2 8-foot-tall bronze cylinders, 5 feet in diameter, with pinpoint light sources. The texts center upon the city of Rochester as the home of both the Kodak Company and Bosch & Lomb, pioneers in camera and optics technology. The texts detail the history of photography, from the first pinhole cameras in China to the latest advanced optics employed in satellite imagery. Argentum Double Positive was completed in 2017 and was hailed an immediate success by the Rochester community. The piece has become a placemaker for the city, and continues to draw audiences from near and far.
So tell me, Jim, what got you to decide to apply for this project?
Well, my assistant actually found the project for me, and then I thought for a while and thought that I might be able to make some sort of difference, attempt to make a contemplative space. Actually, I had done one project which memorialized an airman who was killed during Vietnam in an airplane and who got the Medal of Honor. And I felt tremendous satisfaction doing that project. So I chose to do this one because I thought maybe I could make a space that was had the right kind of combination of contemplation, yet visual intensity. So it's sort of a balance between contemplation and intensity, and I wanted to do that. And I also enjoy being able to build a space for one of my projection cylinders to operate within.
The process of creating this proposal, once you found out you were a finalist and you got to work, what was it like going from that notification to meeting the deadline?
Well, it was interesting. Prior to this project, my wife and I, who collaborate on making models, traditionally made our models using styrofoam and glue and cardboard and tiny little projection cylinders with tiny little flashlight light bulbs inside them. And that was it's become a very different world now. And so fortunately, I have a friend who lives almost locally down here, and he is really a master at digital rendering for architectural projects. And so he assisted me on this. And I conceived of the idea, sent him drawings, and sent him many images of the cylinder itself. And then he was able to render it digitally into what we presented.
What differentiates this project from some of the other projects that you've done in the past?
Well, each of my projects deals with a history of the site on which the piece is located. And sometimes they're universities, sometimes they're cities. And this time it's the tragedy in Odessa. And I just decided that it was time to try to do a piece which wasn't easy. I mean, it's a difficult piece to do, and it's going to be a challenging project for me. And but I decided to do it, and I'm happy about the opportunity to do it. And I hope it has a positive effect on the individuals who were so tragically affected by this.
Well, that leads me to my last question. What do you hope that the community of Odessa takes away from visiting your installation once it's complete?
Well, the title for the piece is Bright Stars, and that came from several sources, obviously Texas being the Lone Star State, but the people who were affected by this, the victims and the shooting victims, were all dramatically affected. And so I hope the drama of the piece, which means at least at night and at dusk, it will be a very effective place to be drawn toward. And I'm hoping that the folks from the city and the victims will feel drawn to this piece because of its intensity. But then once they're there, I hope it becomes or transforms into a meditative kind of space where gatherings can occur and conversations can be made.
I mean, it's such an important piece anyway, and it's different than anything we've done in public art before because of, the sadness and the anger and the hurt and all of the terrible emotions that come up on this day has made this a lot more difficult to get through. And then you throw COVID on top of that, and it's just made it, almost unbearable. So having this finished piece is really going to bring a sense of healing, not just for the victims and for this particular event, but just for everything that we've gone through.
I'm going to do my best when we gather together the thoughts of relatives and survivors and individuals who were affected by this in order to come up with the content that what is going to be on the cylinder. And that's going to be a heart-wrenching thing for me as well.
Yes. Well, we appreciate that you're doing that. It was important that the right location be selected for the installation. Memorial Gardens on 42nd Street is a gathering place for many nonprofits and causes. On any given day, you will see flags to honor the victims of 9/11, breast cancer awareness, or Alzheimer's. It seemed like a natural fit for the Bright Stars Memorial, but it was also due to its proximity to the United Supermarkets. Joining me now is John Jameson, Regional Vice President for United Supermarket. John, thank you so much for taking the time out to come here today.
Thank you, Randy.
United has a very special relationship with the events that happened on August 31st. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, sir. One of the victims was actually in our parking lot when that tragic event happened, and so it was a scary, very scary day. However, it was a very tragic day, but it was also great to see everybody pull together as neighbors and as one, and pull through that tragic day.
That had to have been very intense for not only the shoppers, but also for the employees as well.
It was very scary. When it first started coming out, we thought there was 2 shooters, and the first reaction is to get everybody out of the store and send them home. But when we found out, he's driving around, that's the last thing we wanted to do. So it was one of those, what's the right thing to do? What's the safest thing to do for our team and our guests? And when we figured out he wasn't getting outside of the vehicle, we started keeping everybody inside the store and getting them in a safe spot.
Well, we appreciate the quick thinking of you and all of your staff on that day. It saved many, many lives. Right after that, then you had to deal with COVID-19, which was impacted supermarkets very much. Can you talk about what it was like to go from having to deal with this mass shooting into the age of COVID-19?
Well, both events very tragic, and we're still in the middle of the COVID-19, but I'd say we changed a lot of the way we do things. Whether it's if we hear of somebody with a gun, we take extra precautions. Just like with COVID-19, we take extra precautions. We're cleaning our baskets. Every time somebody uses one, we're cleaning our check stands. We're taking extra precautions. So these 2 events will change the way we do things from here on out.
Well, what do you think of the design of the new art piece?
I love it. I think it's amazing. I love the Texas star. West Texans are proud. We're proud of our flag. We're proud of that Lone Star. And I think it represents the victims, the first responders, And I personally really like the location.
Well, yes, that was my next question. What do you think of having it right next to a United supermarket?
Well, I think that's a beautiful park. Memorial Park's a beautiful place, and I think it's going to add to Odessa, and and it was close to where a lot of the victims,
Yes.
where a lot of that tragic event happened in that general area. So I think it's a great location.
No. Well, I understand that United has a special gift for the Memorial Fund Drive as well.
On behalf of United Supermarkets, I'd like to present this check for $10,000 towards the Odessa Memorial.
Thank you so much, John. On behalf of Odessa Arts and the City of Odessa, we can't wait to put this donation to work.
We're super excited to be part of something that was so impactful to our community.
Thank you. The emotional and mental toll on the community has been staggering. For the rest of the world, 2020 started when COVID-19 erupted in late December. But for West Texas, our 2020 began on August 31st. Our community has had to deal with gun violence, COVID-19, and a collapse in the economy, one right after the other. A group of West Texas formed Rise Permian Basin in November 2019 in hopes of creating a support system for the community. By March, the Family Resiliency Center of the Permian Basin was open for business. Chandra Quintanar serves as its coordinator. So Chandra, the Family Resiliency Center was all ready to open on March 5th.
Yes.
And then COVID happened.
Yes.
So tell me, how did that affect the Resiliency Center? What have you been doing moving forward?
So from the time we were shut down to June 1st, we worked from home and we were able to offer some virtual classes and things like that. On June 1st, Randy, we were able to move back into the office. And so the center is open and we are busy. We have yoga, we have art workshops, and we have training classes and groups.
Well, that's excellent. You mentioned art classes. So how does art play a role in what the Resiliency Center does? How does it affect grief and healing?
It's a great question. So art and really anything that allows you to tap into your creative side can be stress reducing. And so people find a lot of healing through even just putting a crayon to a coloring book. And so what these art classes are doing is just helping people kind of direct all of that creative and energy into a happy time passing activity. So it's a little bit of a distraction, but it can also just be healing through the process.
What has the response to that been?
Well, we've been really fortunate to have a really great response, so much so that in September, we actually get to have people come to the center and paint with our teacher. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, I can imagine you would be. It's really great to have a place to go just when you're feeling down, when this world, this 2020 that we're in, feels like too much. So what services do you offer, and what is the cost to the community members?
The best news first, right? Because that's how I am. Everything we offer is free. Because we're funded through a Victim of Crimes Act from the governor's office, there's never a charge to any of the community members who want to participate. So we have trauma-informed yoga. We have our creative expression experiences, which is the art classes right now. We have support groups and training classes. And again, everything's free. And then we actually just started our little library. So people can come grab a book and they can take it. They can just sit and read in a comfortable spot. So it's really exciting.
That's wonderful. I think that the Resiliency Center kind of got lost in the shuffle of the COVID outbreak. So if there's a community member out there that has never heard of the Family Resiliency Center, what would you want them to know?
That we're here and that we're free. And that more than anything, we just want to help this community heal and find hope. And we love what we do.
Yeah. What do you think of the design for the memorial?
I love it. I cannot wait to see it realized. You guys could not have picked a better piece.
Chandra, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and talk to us about the Resiliency Center and the importance of art and healing.
Randy, it was my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Hi, this is Jim Sanborn. I'm here to discuss our proposal for the memorial to the tragic events of August 31st, 2019. Our provisional title is the Bright Stars Memorial. We developed this concept aware that the site is under development, and it is our hope that we can collaborate with the architects to incorporate our ideas into the design of the project. Our proposal aspires to create both a contemplative, relaxed space and, by its physical outreach, draw viewers in to remember and contemplate these tragic events. This work, like many of our previous projects, includes a projection cylinder. These cylinders on their own are capable of transforming spaces into profound spaces and give new meaning to the word enlightenment.
As we walk into the memorial from the outside, we'll approach the large, circular, sloping outer form of the memorial. To get here, we'll pass through a grove of 32 trees, each dedicated to one of the shooting victims. The main form of the memorial consists of a 60-foot diameter circular amphitheater divided into 4 segments by wide walkways. Each 4-foot-tall segment will be divided horizontally into 3 16-inch benches. The first 2 seating tiers will be cut granite slabs, or, for budgetary reasons, tinted concrete. The top tier will be a warm-toned ashlar granite. On both the outer sloped surface and the inner vertical face of the top slab will be 6 to 10-inch tall sand-blasted texts. The paving inside the seating quadrants will be granite with circular and radial joints, or, again, for budgetary considerations, smooth specialty finished concrete. Between the benches and the cylinder in the center will be 2 6 to 8-inch wide concentric red granite paving inlays, each with sandblasted text. At the center of the memorial stands a 5-foot diameter, 11-foot tall bronze cylinder that's perforated with text. The final text on the cylinder will be determined by the survivors and the victims' relatives at the discretion of this advisory panel and the community. During the day, the projection cylinder, terrace text, and inlaid paving text will have a strong presence. The text on the cylinder may be read directly from the perforated screen or from the paving on which the letters are projected by the sun. And this perforated cylinder creates a magical moire effect as viewers walk by or circumnavigate it. And in addition, visitors can read the different texts carved on the terrace faces and the paving inlays. And then at night, the bright pinpoint light, a metaphorical lone star, at the center of the bronze cylinder will project the perforated text covering the cylinder over a very wide area. The 4 seating terrace segments, the actual people in the space, the paved ground plane, and even the surrounding circular alley of trees. And this provides a pretty stunning backdrop for the contemplative central space. And also, the projection cylinder will most likely be visible from across the lake and attract visitors from a great distance. Then, finally, wrapped around the top portion of the cylinder will be a list of the life dates, names, and quotes from friends and relatives of the shooting victims, and a continuation of these quotes may be carved into a plaque mounted adjacent to the memorial. And also keep in mind that this arrangement is not fixed. The final outcome will ultimately be solidified based upon the approval of this panel and the community.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. It's never easy to revisit tragic events like the one we visited on August 31st, 2019. Please know that there's help out there if you need it. For assistance, please visit the Family Resiliency Center of the Permian Basin. For more information on the Bright Stars Memorial, visit odessaarts.org.